Welcome to the Introduction to Photoshop Layering and Masking. This lesson will cover some of the basic elements of how to create layers in Photoshop, how to arrange those layers, and how to create masks and use them in a non-destructive workflow. The first thing we're going to cover is the layer palette. So as you can see, we've got a scene set up here already with multiple different layers. This is a fully composited shot composed of different types of layers, and you can visibly see the layer masks here within those. In the layers palette, I've also organized this scene. Organization within your Photoshop document is extremely important, and you must always keep in mind that you need to be able to locate certain elements. Then organizing is key to doing that. You can also see that all my layers here are named. It's important to keep these named for the same reason. But for now, what's important to note is the organization of the layer palette and the order in which things appear. So anything on top obviously will appear on top of what's below it, and it all goes through order of operations in that way. Taking a look at the layer masks, what I want to stress here is in Photoshop it's important to always work in a non-destructive manner. You don't ever want to destroy any of your image information because you may need to get that information back at a later time. So let's take a look at one of my elements here. So this is just a picture of my dog that I've got, and what I did was, this has already been done, I created a layer mask for this object. Now the layer mask, if we view it here, I'm going to option click on the image of the mask. What that allows me to do is define where an image appears and where the image does not appear. So if we take our standard image, which let's say we take our image of the dog here, we apply the layer mask. So anywhere that it's white, it will show up, because anything that is white is assigned a value of 1. Anything in the layer mask that is black is assigned a value of 0. So when performing a mathematical operation, anything times 1 equals itself. Anything times a value of 0 equals 0. So when working with an element in Photoshop and applying a layer mask, you can see where if it's black, it'll be times a value of 0, which means it goes away. If it's white, it's times a value of 1, which means it will stay. That's the basics of the math behind how layer masks work. Now what I want to do is show how to actually create and apply a layer mask. I'm going to show just a very simple method, and that's just hand painting the mask. So what I'm going to do is actually demonstrate on the copy we have here. So if we look, I've got a copy of the dog. I'm going to click the mask button here to create a layer mask. Now that I've got it, I'll hit B or click on the icon here for my brush. I'm going to switch. I want to paint a value of black, so I'm going to click to switch the brush color to black, and I'm just using my bracket keys to change the brush size, or you can change your brush size at the top. And I'll just begin to paint the value of black into the image. Now you can see it looks like it's actually being erased, but it actually is not being erased, it's just being masked out. So what's happening is Photoshop is multiplying the color information of the image, the RGB, by the value of the mask. So what's black is a value of 0, so it's now multiplied by that value of 0, which means that that part of the image now goes away. And again, it's important to keep in mind that this is all non-destructive. So if I want, I can go back in here, I can just switch my color, and I can paint back whatever I've painted away. Now when using the eraser tool, things like that, you can't do that. That image information is gone. You can undo up to a certain point, but you can't bring that information back. Let's say you close your document and reopen it, that information is gone. So this, using layer masks, is very important to maintaining a non-destructive workflow in Photoshop. Let's take a look at the final composite shot here, and just for fun I'll show you what we've got. So I'll just go ahead and turn on all the layers. So this was the final shot put together. You can see a lot of different layer masks going on for a lot of different elements. I've got the layer mask for the foreground element of the jet launch, which is this element here. So you can see where that's masked out from the original image. I've got inside my vehicles group to keep it organized. I've got my helicopters, all things like that. So again, it's organized very well. It's all named and it's all masked out. And I went ahead and applied a little post effect to it. That's just something for fun. Okay, so that concludes the lesson on the introduction to layers, masks, and non-destructive workflows. Again, there's many more things you can do with layers and masks in Photoshop, and there's numerous other ways to create and edit non-destructively. But I just wanted to give a brief introduction to these workflow techniques and hopefully demonstrate the power of Photoshop's layers palette and non-destructive workflow.